What do you call lying on the sofa, binge watching Netflix with junk food all around you? Well, if it's a Friday night and you're doing this as a bit of a one-off, that's a pretty bloody good evening in my eyes. But if it's 11 a.m. on a Tuesday and you haven't moved for days, that is what I would call a rut. And maybe it's that you've just got too busy. Maybe you're burnt out. Maybe you are just stuck in this cloud of fog. But what I would probably guess is that it's not that you've just completely given up on yourself or stopped caring. It is probably more that you really are mentally drained and running on empty. And I've been there more times than I'd like to admit. And so in this video, I wanted to share with you a simple reset that has always helped me to climb out of that place whenever I've hit the wall in any aspect of my life. And this reset essentially follows the concept of progressive overload, which if you are a gym goer is a concept that you might be familiar with, but it is kind of the concept of how you can go from some skinny, weedy guy that's never touched a weight before to actually, over time, being someone that is more muscly, stronger, and in a lot better shape. Step one is to take ownership. And I mean, if you are that skinny, weedy guy, the first thing that you actually need to do is you just need to look at yourself in the mirror and realize that you are the person that needs to make some sort of change. And so you are the person that needs to do something. And I guess in that scenario, it would be to actually start going to the gym and start trying to build some muscle and build some strength. And that same sort of concept can be applied to any circumstances that you're in, because what you really need to realize is that no matter what's going on in your life, you and only you are the person that is going to be able to change those circumstances you're in. And the majority of the time, whatever situation you're in, it probably is a result of your own doing. And so you need to be able to grab yourself out of that situation. And I mean, even in the very unlikely situation that you are in some rut, say, because of something that has actually happened outside of your control, which I do think will be unlikely. But if you are, like, say if you've actually had something really quite tragic happen to you, like maybe you have had a really unexpected death in your family, even in that situation, as bad as that is, and as hard as it may be, it is still down to you to grab yourself out of that situation. Because just sitting in your own sort of pity or negative emotions, it's not really gonna do any benefit for you. And maybe, like, if it is something really tragic, maybe you do need to do that for a certain amount of time, but still, ultimately, you need to realize that it needs to be you that will need to make some sort of change. And so step one in this whole process is to realize that you need to take ownership for yourself and the circumstances that you're in, and you need to take ownership to kind of get out of that and progress towards the next step. Step number two is to actually take action towards getting yourself out of your circumstances. And so again, if we go back to the gym goer, the skinny guy, all right, he has realized he doesn't want to be skinny anymore and he wants to do something about it. Well, the next step is actually to take action, which in that circumstance will be, all right, I need to start going to the gym and I need to start lifting some weights, because that's the only way that I'm going to sort of change my physique and change my capabilities and my strength in that situation. And I get it how, like, say if you are really in a rut in life, or if you are really depressed or really just down in the dumps completely, it may seem difficult to actually kind of start taking that action. But what you really need to realize is that you don't always need like motivation to do something, and you can still be feeling pretty crappy and still do things. Like, you can just be feeling completely lazy and unmotivated and like you don't want to do anything. You can feel like that, but you can still go and do those things. Like, you could still go to the gym or go for a run or do whatever it is that you want to work towards. So don't really like try to rely on bouts of motivation to come to actually do anything. And just regardless of how you're feeling, just realize that action is what you need to do, because ultimately, if you don't do anything, if you just continue to wallow in your emotions and your feelings, you will just remain at that baseline level of negative feelings and or sort of whatever negative situation you are in. And so you need to realize that action is the only way out, because if you don't do anything, you will not be changing. And so regardless of how you're feeling, take that first step. But the key here is to try and start with small actionable steps. So again, if we go back to the gym goer, if you've never set foot in a gym again, you are not going to go to the bench press and load up the bench with all these massive weights and expect to be able to lift that. Instead, you're going to go to the bench and you're probably just going to start trying to lift the bar itself, or, you know, put the absolute 1.25 kilograms each side, like the smallest weights, and see if you can lift that to start with. And by breaking these things down into these small actionable steps, hopefully they won't feel so daunting and they will feel more like things that you can achieve. And so part of this sort of taking action is to realize, like, whatever it is that you want to do, you need to sort of break it down into these steps. And so just set for yourself a very small first step. Like, say if you are wanting to become better at public speaking, say, like, you wouldn't sign up, not that you'd probably be able to, but you wouldn't sign up to go and do like some speech in front of 1,000 people. Instead, maybe just say to yourself, like, I'm just going to try and speak for 30 seconds at the next meeting I'm in front of like a few people, and just start from there. And then we'll see where we can go. And then step 3 is to keep progressing with these action steps. So, you know, if you've gone to the gym and you've loaded up the bar with those really small, like 2.5 kgs each side, if you've realized, actually, I can now do 10 reps of this and it's not so bad, all right, now it's time to progress. So now we'll put 5 kilograms each side and we'll see if we can do that. And once you're able to do 10 reps again on that, 10 kilograms, and so on and so on. And so you just keep building it up. And so by starting again at these small actionable steps, we start with stuff that we can achieve. But then once we are able to do that, we can see actually we are a lot more capable than we might think we are. And that will start to give us more momentum and hopefully confidence that we can continue to progress. Maybe as you keep going, you might even start getting more bouts of motivation and you'll just start sort of enjoying the process more and more. As well as that, growth, it ultimately does sort of come at the end of our comfort zone. And so we do need to keep pushing ourselves, because if we just get too comfortable doing something, that's where we might stagnate, and you might even then fall back into like not feeling as good about yourself and might sort of be more likely to actually take a step backwards. But if we keep challenging ourselves, that will sort of help us to keep excited, and it will help us to grow and push and push. And that is how over time we will really be able to progress massively. And say like a year later, you might look back at where you were and be amazed with what you've been able to achieve. And that's it. Take ownership, take action, and then keep progressing. And I promise this simple process can be applied to whatever you're doing in life. And you can really break things down into these simple steps. And I have used this to get out of so many different situations in life, and it has always allowed me to positively get out of those situations and progress to where I want to be. I hope you found this useful. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.